Morning, Formula One fanatics. Good morning, Formula One fanatics from around the world. Today we're doing the post show for the Italian Grand Prix at Monza that ended just yesterday. And with me on the show this morning is Lerato from South Africa and Mustafa Jinodi. You guys are welcome to the show.
Okay, so we'll get
Yeah,
started.
yeah.
Very eventful race, but I'm going to start off by giving respect to the person who won, Leclerc. So it has been
Sure.
said that other than Lewis Hamilton and Verstappen, Leclerc is the best at tire preservation on high-speed corners. In order to do high-speed corners like that, you have to be able to make the corners shorter, and you have to be able to massage the front tires. Yesterday's race put a lot of pressure on the front left tire because it was a new track and because it's high speed. So with high speed, there's a lot more force, whatever type of force you want to call it. I'm not sure if it's centrifugal. And Lewis Hamilton, Verstappen are the best at it. Leclerc is right there with them. And it has been said several times that Leclerc is the fastest driver in Formula One from point to point, which means he has the most raw speed. Definitely Hamilton has better racecraft. And I agree that Verstappen, when he's not frustrated, has better racecraft than Leclerc, which is why we may have seen him struggling a little bit earlier, pushing that car too hard, the Ferrari car. But the Ferrari car has made improvements. But I want to go back to the point at which tire drag, Leclerc, like I said, second to none. He's at the same level as Verstappen and Hamilton when it comes to front tire. And these guys are speed demons. They come off of the brake. They brake later than anybody, and they're able to go in the corners. Now, Norris is a smoother driver, but he has a longer corner, and he's good. He's very smooth and elegant, and that's how he manages tires. But he on high speed corners, on tracks with high speed corners, he's not as good as those guys, not even close. And even Piastri is better. But the main thing about that race was that because Piastri was pushing hard because he did not want to lose to Norris. He was pushing hard. That's why his tire drag came down a lot faster. And because Norris just is not that great at driving on those types of tracks, and also he was out of it a little bit, I think he probably had less tire degradation than Piastri, but the team had them both going a two-stop. I don't know why they had Norris going a two-stop. I don't think his tires were that bad. I think Piastri could have probably managed a one-stop, but he was going faster than everybody else each lap by by maybe 200 or 300 of a second, and that was putting extra wear on his tires. Now you have Leclerc, who already is a master at driving without at preserving his tires on high speed tracks. So for him, it was not a problem at all, and that's the reason he won. Now there wouldn't have been a problem of well, no, this problem would have existed anyway. McLaren has basically two number one drivers, and they're going to have to race each other hard. And Leclerc will pick up the spoils. He did it last week where he put Piastri into third and took away points from McLaren, because if Piastri had passed McLaren,
Yeah.
if Piastri had passed Leclerc, he would have passed Verstappen. So now we're seeing, and I like this because now we're seeing top four drivers in the world now fighting and mixing it up and taking points away from each other. Norris, Verstappen, Hamilton to a point, but Hamilton was up there too when he won in Silverstone, and Verstappen, Norris, and Piastri. So we're having competition. Now, it probably doesn't make logical sense for McLaren to have those guys race each other hard and start to lose points, but I don't think it's a problem so long as they can win the constructors. And if Norris had been within 40 points of Verstappen by now, which he should be based on past mistakes, then he would have gotten team orders. What do you think, Lorato?
Yeah, man. A very fabulous race for Ferrari. Really great.
I'm very happy for Leclerc. Actually, I'm glad he won. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. I was also kind of like happy it was a Ferrari driver that won that race.
Yeah.
And I think they just sort of risk.
Oh, he's breaking. Yeah.
Place or getting first,
Yeah. I mean, but I think at this point,
to manage to stick in there.
At this point, there's too many points behind. I mean, even though I think I think Norris can still win the championship, but I think they're doing it the right way. Let these guys race. Continue. I also have a sneaking suspicion that that Piastri is the favorite on that team. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. Continue. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. It almost looks like that. I mean, if they were letting them race, then they should have given Lando that race at Hungary.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But see,
Because he was
their
up front.
reasoning was that they made a tactical mistake and they fucked up Norris. No, they fucked up Leclerc. So they're like, oh, yes, yeah, but they should have let it continue and live with your mistake.
It's either a team sport.
Yeah, live with your
it's
mistake.
it's either a team sport or it's an individual sport.
Or
have
they
to
could have
decide.
said, give back the place to him and start racing. Yeah. Sorry, because what they said was
race. Yeah.
And what they told them was switch places and let Piastri win. At least they could have said switch places and then as soon as you switch places, race again. No,
win,
yeah. So yesterday the right thing was done.
You might.
Yeah, but that race before that was the wrong thing. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So you might be right that there might be a little bit leaning towards Piastri.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the Ferrari team really pushed the risky strategy. They pulled a classic George Russell on us at Spa,
but only Leclerc or Hamilton or Verstappen could pull that off. Yeah, maybe a Russell too.
Yeah. And then of course the idea that the McLarens were racing so hard and actually racing each other more than anyone else cost them their tires and pushed them into a two-stop. Because I think
but I do think that they probably could have managed a one-stop. I mean, come on, with all their upgrades and stuff. But we'll get to that in another second, though. But go ahead.
But they were just pushing. They were just pushing and pushing.
To me, that was good.
Even Hamilton was saying in his post race that I was getting messages about what times these guys were pushing. He was like, "Yo, they pushed it too hard."
To me, that's good for Formula One. All the Liberty Media guys are complaining. Isn't that what the fans want? Gladiator. You understand what I'm saying? That's what the fans want. I'm beginning to wonder about Formula One and Formula One TV.
Yeah.
No, these guys don't. They're trying to force Zach Brown to do team orders. It seems like outside forces are trying to force him to do it.
No, sure.
No, they can criticize him, but they're going further. They were harassing him during conversations. The guy from Mercedes who beat Hamilton. Rosberg doesn't even remember when him and Hamilton weren't doing team orders. No, I understand. I
was thinking about that when he was asking that question. I was like,
it's hypocritical. I understand them. You can question the logic. Like Peter, if you look at Peter Windsor, he said, if I were Piastri, I wouldn't have given up that place. But we also have to question McLaren. You have to make up your mind what you want to do. He didn't say it was the wrong movement, but if you want to do that, don't tell the guys, race fairly. Don't come into contact, but don't race each other hard. Papaya rule says you have to race hard, but also not make contact. You can't do that. So it just seems like, but it seems like they're aggressively trying to make Zach Brown do what they say. He doesn't owe them any explanations. And Zach Brown is being nice, like, yeah. But in his mind, he already knows what he's going to do. Sorry, Lorato, go on. Yeah. Lorato, sorry. I think Lorato's cut off.
Yeah. I think, it's, yeah.
You were breaking for a second.
I'm still,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's very interesting how this thing is being presented between this whole sort of sensationalizations around papaya rules and all those things. I think McLaren has made it clear that their drivers are racing. And that's great. That's what they should do, but they should be consistent.
But also
with that point,
I'm going to call out.
That's my only criticism that they haven't been
I'm gonna call
consistent
out Norris.
about it.
Be consistent, and I agree with you because they switching places and making Lando Norris. That's what caused. You know what they call the original wound in the Bible?
No.
That's what caused the original wound in Norris's psyche, and he hasn't forgotten that. So, and as much as I don't like
Yeah,
Norris,
yeah.
I have to admit that was wrong. I don't even think I was saying it was as wrong as it is now, but thinking back. But let's go back to Norris.
No,
Norris,
yeah. I mean, hindsight is always 20/20.
yeah.
So when we look at the track record, we can criticize them for not allowing Lando to race Piastri after giving him the position back, because
but I wouldn't have criticized them as much
on the day.
Now, but there's two mitigating circumstances. If Norris had made it the first 2 laps and that situation came up, I believe they would have done team orders if Norris was leading. But they still can't really do that because Leclerc is on their tail. And that was going to force them, even whether they liked it or not, it was going to force them to do a one-stop strategy no matter what, unless they can put him in dirty air. So this goes back to where Norris made a very big mistake. Norris said, what can I do? Because I was crashing to my teammate for doing that to me. But the question is, you should expect your teammate to do that to you to the first corner, because this is racing. So Norris got caught with his pants down because he never believed that. He believed that this guy would just sit back and not take a risk. So I don't think Norris realized this is a dogfight, man. Even Verstappen blocked Norris for a couple of.
But that was actually into the second corner.
Second corner. That's what I mean.
Brown,
but I'm saying
Brown said that they had to cover each other on the first corner, which Piastri did brilliantly.
And then second corner race, man. Yeah, race.
Yeah, when you see Russell's on board. And he got onto the pedal fast, and he really picked up.
And then Liberty Media said that Norris that Leclerc that Piastri should be investigated for squeezing Russell. Please, what's happening to Formula One? They're saying that he should be investigated. They're not happy. They're not happy about Norris losing.
Yeah, I think it might be that British bias.
The bias is becoming too much.
That British bias coming through, because
it's too much.
They definitely. Yeah, they definitely want another British
and because they want Norris or Russell or Hamilton
back at the top.
Yeah, and of course nobody can talk bad about Verstappen. Because that move that Norris made to me was that Piastri made was beautiful. And it was also because everybody knows Russell's aggressive. Russell pulls off that move a lot of times. This time Piastri was ready for him and defended it. So we're going back to the other point. Russell dropped his guard on the second corner. He was just taken by surprise. He didn't believe that this guy was going to make a move on him. And this is where the psychological part comes. It's not about, oh, lovely, lovely. You have to be suspicious of everybody you're driving. Because trust me, Piastri goes home and his mom says, when are you going to be number one? I've seen his grandma. She's a very earthy. She's probably at home. They're probably having dinner saying, now is your time. But Norris is thinking, oh, Piastri's a quiet guy who won't do it. No, Piastri is cold-blooded. It's just that he's quiet. He's sort of like Putin. Nobody knows what Vladimir Putin has planned for the future. He'll smile with you, bow down to you when he meets you in Joburg, like when he meets Becky and Co. But he has a master plan. And I think people are sleeping on Piastri.
No, he.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Piastri did say that he saw that turn as his best chance to win the race, and he took
it. Yeah,
and
because that's the psychological makeup you have. Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, that's all that there was. There was to that.
Yeah, and it was a brilliant move, and that's what we need to see in Formula One. You saw that video I showed you yesterday: Hamilton versus Alonso, Prost versus Senna. These things were to the throat. It was only Michael Schumacher who says, "Oh, I'm number one," but he would have inferior drivers. Piastri is no inferior driver. He's better. He's better at high-speed corners than Norris. Norris is better at overall racecraft, which is why Norris can do a one lap and win, and beat him for qualifying. But over a race, Piastri's ability to massage the tires gives him an advantage. So that's just the weeks. Kind of like how Russell beats Lewis for one lap. But
I think the interesting thing about McLaren is that they have evenly matched drivers. They're
pretty much evenly matched. Yeah,
except for the fact that the one who loses the race is the one who makes the most mistakes. Piastri lost out last week because he made the most mistakes.
Yeah,
that's how he ended up in fourth last week.
Yeah.
So whoever makes, because they have the same car, Of course, setups might be different.
Yeah,
but
Russell
because they have the
almost
same
went
power,
in.
the same performance.
Russell made a mistake on his pit. They didn't. So they said his pit stop was 2 seconds, but they didn't mention that he lost probably a half a second bumping into the pole coming in. He lost half a second to a second coming in, and I think he was shell shocked from being passed because after this guy passed him, he could have still passed back. But
Norris.
Yeah, Norris. After Piastri passed him, he wasn't the same person anymore throughout the race. When he came in for a pit stop to change his tires, he hit the pole, and also during the race, he went into the green, into the dirt several times, unforced error. And this is something nobody's mentioning, not even Windsor. Nobody's mentioning that he had 2 unforced errors during that race, which cost him at least half a second to a second. And all of this happened right after this guy passed him. I think it messed up his mind. But let's go to Afolabi. Tell us about the upgrades Ferrari bought, because apparently their car is getting better, a little bit better. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. They brought a lot of
I can't hear you well.
But one of the most important.
Is your speaker on? Because I can't hear you.
A lot of upgrades.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I said they brought a lot of upgrades, but one of the most important upgrades was the aerodynamic enhancement, specifically for low drag, which is suited to the Monza track. And I think it worked a T for their car. And another important thing I want to mention is that there was an engine power boost. Monza is typically notorious for its long straights and, high-speed corners. And then a lot of tweaking on the suspension and also the brakes really helped them. And if I looked at also the one-stop pit strategy, it was a very efficient way for managing the race throughout. The one-stop pit strategy, as well as the medium soft tire compounds that they decided to use. That was really brilliant. One-stop pit strategy is a delicate balance between race dynamics, and timing of the pit stop. And once you get it right, I think on this particular race, Ferrari got it spot on. That was the difference between them, McLaren, and then, of course, Mercedes and Red Bull.
Yeah, and it's funny because I would argue that this track, Monza, is a 1.5 stop, which means 1 is probably a little bit too little, but 2 is too much. And that's what made the race exciting. And the main thing is the left tire, because it has a lot of left turns on Monza and high speed. And high speed. Yes. And this is where guys so ideally Monza should not be a two stop, but because of the new track, they put a new surface on it. It adds to tire drag, and then because of the left, but also it depends on who's driving, because it wasn't a problem for Leclerc at all. So to me, it was a no-brainer.
Yes,
he was always going to do a one-stopper on that. But the key thing was that these guys were racing each other. What are your thoughts? Oh, and also thank you for also very quickly before we go to him. It's going to be legal soon.
Yeah.
The front wing. That's what's helping for drag and stuff. Ferrari and McLaren have been using it. Now everybody's looking into it because Red Bull is mad.
Yes.
So what's happening? So it's a flexible front wing which can deal with any type of condition. It can deal with high speed corner. It's another way of getting balance.
Absolutely.
It's not an asymmetrical thing, but it's a variable thing that's flexible to conditions. What are your thoughts, Lorato, on that? And also on just in general, the tire, the fact that I think Monza is a 1.5 stop, which means you're damned if you don't. Yeah.
I think we saw with how late Sainz stopped that Ferrari likely looked like they were on a one stop.
Yeah. Although it hurts Sainz more because Sainz is not a high speed corner type driver. He's more of a tactician. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah. But he was the one person who was on a 100% one stopper.
And we have to thank Sainz. Sainz is the most valuable driver in Formula 1. What I mean by most valuable, the type of work he does with his intelligence, his IQ, he helps teams, and I think he's going to help Williams. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead. Yeah.
For sure. He was a solid team player in terms of keeping McLaren at bay, and he also then, I mean, through what Ferrari did over the weekend, they really brought some points home.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the other thing that I think we mentioned is that we're seeing the development race happen from race to race. So just because you're fast this week does not mean you're going to be fast next week.
Yeah,
Because
it doesn't mean that. I was saying maybe the upgrades aren't working as well, but no, the difference
no,
is
no,
that
no,
each team, it's more like espionage. It's like Russia versus America in technology and
yeah,
China.
the
New
upgrade, the
technology every
upgrades
week.
work. The
Yeah,
upgrades work.
but the other one has.
Because that is also one of the complaints that that Mercedes had, is that they didn't bring any upgrades to this race.
I
So
have a feeling
they
there's
were
a rumor that Mercedes was using that valve a couple of weeks ago, and I'm beginning to believe it because it looks like Mercedes and Red Bull, they are not doing upgrades because it shows me that they don't have a developmental program. They've been doing loopholes. That's
yeah,
my
no,
personal
no.
feeling.
I think they were just slightly outdeveloped this week, because
Mercedes did.
when we look at Q3, and the top six being separated by about 0.3 of a second, that just shows you how tight the top six
Yeah.
are, the top eight are.
Yeah.
I think Red Bull were the worst performing
Yeah.
this
Red Bull.
week in terms of those teams at the top.
Yeah. I think they're
Because
saving money for
I
their
think
51% investors from Asia. I'm being honest with you.
yeah,
I think they're operating as
because
a profit company now, not as a winning company. That's what I think. Continue. Yeah.
because I think they were the ones who were sort of half a second from separated from that top six, and then now they're bringing up these accusations about front wings
Yeah, to me,
being
those are innovations.
problematic.
They're not cheating. They're innovations.
Yeah. But anyone who looks at aerodynamic performances and things like that
Yeah.
can see that no, this is just aerodynamic. Because even the wing that McLaren brought this week was not even a new wing. It was them just cutting off
Also, can I
parts
say something?
of.
The FIA rules are that you can't apply asymmetrical braking force. This is not asymmetrical braking force. This is aerodynamic shifts. There's a difference. So there's no cheating. No cheating at all. Continue.
Yeah. I think what McLaren did to their wing was that they just chipped off
Yeah, they chip parts of it off.
pieces
And then
of the last.
Ferrari has been copying everything they do, which is okay. Ferrari has been copying everything they do, which is okay.
No, for
That's
sure.
not not stealing. It's not stealing.
They've been learning from each. They've been learning from each other. I think Mercedes also has that kind of front wing as well. That has that last blade that's almost half a
Rat, I have a
blade.
joke for you. Yeah, like jazz musicians do the same thing. Back in the 1920s, jazz musicians would put napkin over their fingers so that the other guy wouldn't see their finger movements. You understand what I'm trying to say? Same thing with hip hop.
Sure.
In hip hop, other guys are listening to guys and they start to pick up some of their licks and stuff. That's part of the sport. Yeah, it's not espionage. Go ahead.
No, for sure. So it is looking like the development race is really on, and Ferrari should be in a good spot with their current setting in Baku as well.
And things are
Because it's a
looking good for them for
similar
next
kind
year
of track.
too.
It also has 4 corners. It maybe one long corner or something like that, but it's more sharp in
So
terms
my
of
prediction is
how
that
it's set up.
my prediction is that next year McLaren will be number one and Ferrari will be right behind them. Red Bull is going to be third or fourth. Aston Martin is coming up. Oh, I forgot about Mercedes. Mercedes and Red Bull will be fighting for third and fourth. That's the way I look at it right now because it doesn't look like Red Bull has a developmental program. If I were Red Bull, and they're terrible because now they have to try to win the championship. If I were them, I would already start preparing for next year. You understand what I'm saying?
No, for sure. But they are going to be, I mean, anxious about trying to hold on to the lead that they have now.
Yeah, I think you know what it is. They're at the mercy of Mercedes and Ferrari. They have to hope that or they need to do something. Maybe they need to start, like I said, they need to start setting their car up for high speed tracks at the end of the season. Remember what I said. So I think it's going to be like the year Hamilton lost to Verstappen. Verstappen had a good run
on the last race.
The last couple of races. He had a good run, even though the last one was a cheating. He had a good run on the high. So they need to focus on doing damage control for the next 3-4 races. And while they're doing that, prepare for the races that are high speed, that aren't technical, and that don't put a lot of tire degradation and don't require as much balance.
Because we would expect them to struggle in the next race.
Yeah, they'll struggle.
In Singapore.
I have to say, Verstappen is a great driver. He's doing good. He's doing as best as he can. And also, Perez, I'm not going to talk bad about Perez anymore in my life because he doesn't have the right car, and he has a car that's tailored only for Verstappen. Continue, sorry.
Yeah. But I think I mean, given the challenges that they're facing, well, yeah, they did okay. They did okay.
Well, they couldn't do anything better because it was already predicted that their car is right now. Their car is not even. I think their car is the third best car right now because both them and Mercedes are comparable, 3 and 4.
And Mercedes between third and fourth.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's great. I had always had one shoe in for Ferrari to make great improvements towards the end of the season.
And if Ferrari can focus, Ferrari needs focus. They're a traditional team. They're pageantry, and they're poetic. See, they win in Monaco, Monza. They win the poetic races. So, but they need to become a little bit more technical, like teams like McLaren. Sure. But Ferrari will never do that. That Ferrari is your flamboyant aunt. That's not practical. You get my point? That spends all her money on peacock hats and stuff. That's just the way Ferrari is. And that's the good thing about Formula One. It's beautiful and dramatic and everything else. But I do think that moving forward next year, I think their biggest mistake, I'm actually beginning to wonder if I think this guy might be outdated. Newey. There's always a new generation in any science or art form because a lot of teams are not giving Newey what he wants, which is why he hasn't chosen a team. They're not giving him carte blanche. So it's not that Newey isn't good, but no team this day can depend on just one person. You can't just depend on a designer. And then he says, I can bring whoever I want. That's why Ferrari didn't bring him in because he was like, I get to choose. I get to block all hiring. You're not going to tell that to Ferrari. That's like telling the Queen of England that you're going to have more power than her. You understand what I'm saying? So Ferrari will never allow someone who overshadows the brand to come. So that's why they didn't bring him. But if they had brought Newey in, most likely Hamilton and Leclerc will be untouchable next year. What are your thoughts, Lorato?
Yeah, the package, like a full package, is what works in F1 development, as we see with McLaren, and of course now you have the challenges that they have is that they have drivers
actually,
who are still.
Sorry,
who are
go ahead.
who are still adjusting to having such a fast car, and then having strategists and engineers who are still sort of getting to grips with how to handle this.
Come on the radio. On the radio, Piastri and his engineer couldn't make up their mind whether he should do 1 or 2 stops. No, you can't have that type of indecision in Formula One. Like Piastri was.
They had no chance of doing a 1 stop because of how hard they were pushing. There was no chance that.
But meanwhile, they were still. I think they were still. So at that point, maybe they should have told those guys, both of you, man, dial it down. But there was no, and this is why I say Piastri is a champion. Piastri would have disobeyed them. Remember, Lewis Hamilton disobeyed McLaren years back. Remember that. And even Lewis Hamilton, the reason he lost the championship that year, his first year, is because he refused to change into intermediate when it was raining. He said, no, I can do it myself. Lewis Hamilton tried to drive in rain in China on dry tires because he started believing his hype, and he took it into the wall. So my point is that, but that's a winner's idea. So Piastri is the same way. He's stubborn. So there's no way that he was going to let down. And that's what you want in a driver. And that's why I think in the long run, McLaren is going to put their energy on him because they know that type of tenacity is going to pay off in a couple of years. What do you think, Lorato? Sorry.
No. I think you're correct with that. I said, in the first corner, he was already thinking about winning the race. I mean, in that second corner, after having covered Lando from Russell, he was already thinking about winning the race. From second place, he was not thinking about covering.
And for the first time, he showed emotion because after the race, he was disappointed, not because he already beat his teammate, but he was disappointed because he didn't win the race. After the race, I've never seen Piastri.
I mean,
I've never
being
seen Piastri
disappointed
look
with
sad.
second place.
He almost looked like he wanted to cry. That's the first time I've seen him show emotion, which shows you that he has something underneath, sort of like Verstappen. And then when you now take it to that warrior level, you become disappointed. That's the first time I've seen Piastri not smile after a race. You see what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, and from second place, I mean that's
And you beat North, but he's thinking about winning.
That is something to be unhappy about.
Yeah. But I'm saying usually he's that's why I tell you got to watch out for Piastri. He's smiling and stuff, but when he goes home, he goes to his shrine and starts cursing everybody. You know those types of people, right? I'm not trying. You know what I'm trying to say? The guy is possessed. What I'm trying to say is that he's possessed, but it's just that he's relaxed. He doesn't get upset about small things. But to him, yesterday was a big thing because he wanted to win that race, and also he knows that if he starts winning races, it secures his position as not being a number 2 driver. So that shows you that he's very ambitious. We all know. I think Norris is more like Rosberg. He's a gentleman. He drives well. He's sort of like a Fangio. All around, he's a better driver and he does everything right. He has a good personality, but he doesn't have that killer instinct. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think it's great that he's at McLaren because they don't believe in number 2 drivers.
Yeah. That's a good thing. Yeah.
So,
like I said, people need to go back to that video I sent you with Hamilton
that has been what.
Yeah. Apparently, Mercedes doesn't believe it in either. And
exactly.
both teams have balance. Yeah, Mercedes doesn't believe in team orders.
Number 2 drivers,
no. And in the long run, that's going to win the constructors.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what I would say, we're about to leave soon, but what I would say is that if McLaren, they're going to win the constructors this year, and next year they should be favorites. And next year, I think those two can still race each other, unless Ferrari is pushing them. So what I'm trying to say is that they're going to get to the point like with Mercedes, with Rosberg and Hamilton, where they're so far ahead that they can race each other. But I think that's not going to happen because I think Ferrari will still be in the mix next year. What are your last thoughts, Lorato? Then we'll go to Afalabi. Yeah.
Yeah, man, like I said, it's really a development race to the end of the season.
Yeah.
But I'm loving what kind of a season it is.
Yeah.
Where you can't enter a race knowing who's going to win. That's why we love the sport. That's why we watch F1. Who's going to out strategize who's going to outdrive who, and that's what we're seeing between Piastri and Norris. They're out driving each other in the same car because they put this argument to rest on whether it's about the car or whether it's about the driver.
Well, can I say something though? And remember that time
really interesting
6 weeks ago. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah. You said it's really been a good season. Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be interesting.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what if Ferrari can bring better upgrades to tracks with more challenging corners, with more slow speed and medium speed corners, so that they can bring the race to McLaren over that, and also then stay there in the battle for the constructors. So the constructors, I think, is still not much of a given that Piastri and Lando can still make mistakes when it comes to the crunch.
But the problem is that Mercedes is unreliable. Like Mercedes, I still believe Mercedes will win 2 more races this year, but from week to week, you don't know what's going to happen. And then right now, Red Bull is just suffering, man. They're suffering.
Yeah,
I don't know
Red Bull is looking terrible. If they can pull something out of their developments,
something will happen. I still predict they're going to do well on the high speed tracks later on in the year.
On those high speed tracks.
Yeah.
Unless there is something fundamentally wrong with their car, because I think this week they had problems with engine power.
That's the problem. Verstappen has used up all his engine power. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't have a problem with engine power on Monza. Like Monza is a high power track.
They could change.
It needs you.
I think they're saving their last engine, like I said,
rev.
for the end of the season. They're saving their last engine for the last 4 races.
Possibly.
So they're weathering the storm now.
Possibly.
Yeah, because they only have one more engine.
Yeah.
That's all they have left. And for some reason, their car is hard on engines. Every year, even the year that Verstappen beat Hamilton, he was
He
working
had
off of
used
an
up all
old,
his power units.
yeah. And then he brought the last one for the last 2 races, and it helped him a little bit. And the power units were not lasting long either. You bring in a
Yeah.
new engine, and boom, it's gone. So they're doing a lot of stuff with that car. They've done too many crazy scientist maneuvers on their car. Yeah, but we'll see what's going to happen. So yeah, this has been a good show. So Falabi, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I just feel this McLaren's philosophy of having two number one drivers can be fallible at times. You almost need to have two drivers of equal ability. If you have one super driver and one not too super driver, it becomes difficult to balance it. And every track, every race is not the same. So if you have an ambitious driver like Piastri and you have a nice guy like Lando, it's difficult at times because they're already
And what
saying
makes
they're
it
going
worse?
to look into the race and find out why
Yeah.
Piastri, was so aggressive in overtaking and stuff like that. So I think sometimes it's humanly impossible to make both drivers happy if you have a team
No,
strategy
you
like
can't. You
that of
can't. But
McLaren.
here's the thing. So
You can't
Piastri.
make both drivers happy. You can't. If
No, but
they
here's
both
let me
want
tell
to
you a
win,
team where you can. Perfect example. Sainz is actually a nice guy. You know what? Sainz is a very mature driver, so he's more team oriented. So that's why him and Leclerc pretty much get along together. The problem is that it's to be switched places. Lando Norris needs to have the personality that Piastri has, and Piastri needs to have the personality that Norris has. You see what I'm saying? There's a flip on Ferrari, you have two really good drivers, but I think there's enough of a gap. I think Piastri knows that Leclerc is a lot faster than he is. And also Piastri says, if I'm going to beat Leclerc, I'm going to beat him based on strategy. Because Piastri knows he's not as fast as Leclerc, and Leclerc is also erratic. But once Leclerc becomes calm and is able to focus, he's able to beat. Like, for the reason he beat Piastri already said, I'm doing one lap before the race started, and he knows, not Piastri. Sainz said, I'm doing one lap.
Sainz, okay.
Sainz wanted to do one lap when Russell did one lap. So Sainz, he doesn't listen to all that bullshit because he knows he's not going to overtake you on the track based on speed. He's going to be tactical. You understand?
Yeah.
So Rosberg was the same. Rosberg would not get emotional when Hamilton was beating him. But Norris is different because Norris is outstarting his teammate. So he has a problem. And I keep saying this, he needs to address his starting problem. Okay, take us out, Lorato. Yeah, last thoughts on that. I think that's the main issue. Norris needs to learn how to convert his qualifying. Yeah.
Qualifying, yes, to race results.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think you can have like a favorite driver on any team. It's difficult because every driver wants to win. You have even those guys who are struggling down there at the bottom. They're working their asses off to get to a car that can put them in for a win. As unattainable as it can be. They that's what they want. That's what every driver is there for.
And I give credit to Norris. Norris wants to win too. He was not happy after yesterday's race, man.
Yeah, no, for
but
sure.
That's more feelings. Both of them were in their feelings because they can't justify their upsetness. It's just that you want to win. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just when you look at the longer trajectory, that's when you can see that
teamwork works better.
Yeah, that McLaren has greatly improved from being at the bottom of the pack beginning of 23 to being at the top now.
And it's due to both drivers and to their team.
Yeah, I think they're going to be challenging for next year's championship as well.
And we have to give a shout out. Zach Brown is not the team principal. Their team principal is the other guy, the Italian guy. To me, he's the best team principal in F1 now. You don't see him in the news. You don't see him in the news.
Yeah, Andrea.
He's better than he is the principal.
Stella, yes.
And there's not one bad thing you can say about him. We all know about Horner. He's an alpha. He's a narcissist. He's a control freak. Yeah, but Stella
Yeah,
stays
we
back
all
there and
know
does
about
his work.
Toto and how crazy he can be.
Yeah, Toto Wolff Toto Wolff is borderline personality. He's the thing about Toto Wolff, he's not aggressive, but he's petty, but he's passive aggressive. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, well, yeah,
yeah,
he even
no,
made
sure.
Antonelli ruin Russell's car. Can you imagine that? Why would you give your car to your driver when he's in the main competition, to give it to a young boy who's 18 and damage the car and destroy Russell's balance for a week? Any last thoughts on that, Lorato? Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's school fees for Antonelli. You have to pay that school fees at some point, you
Yeah,
know.
but what about Russell though? What
So
about
I
Russell?
think
Russell's car was damaged.
Antonelli,
Yeah. In other words, go give
but
Antonelli another car then. Give him another car. Don't give him Russell's
yeah,
car. Don't give him my car.
but
They should have given him another car,
he
not
damaged
Russell's car.
Yeah, go ahead.
he damaged the car in the race, and that's why he struggled in the race
Yeah,
so badly.
but here's the thing, Lorato. If you own a car, which one is more painful, for somebody to take your car and give it to another child and they damage, or you damage it yourself? That's always better.
Of course, that's more painful. But I mean, Kimi has to get his time in the sun. Of course, maybe they should have given him Lewis's car, because Lewis is
No.
leaving.
What they should have done, what they should do is do that next year in the early races. You understand what I'm saying? And also talk to him and say, look, don't push it.
Yeah.
He pushed it. He was trying to do a record lap. He was trying to do a record lap. So if they're going to give him the car, they need to tell him, drive within your limits. I'm going to leave on this. There's a problem in F1 in which people aren't allowed to do. They're not allowed. They have to go to the sim. They're not allowed to drive during the off season on the tracks. They have limited hours. I think Formula One needs to go back to letting people drive on tracks to practice throughout the season. What do you think, Lorato? Yeah, I think it's because of the cost caps and everything like that. Yeah, because the simulator is not. I don't think Kimi goes to the simulator though. It's only Verstappen and guys. So take us out, Lorato. I mean, not Lorato. Afolabi. I think Lorato's thing is paused. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, it's been a wonderful show for Formula One this morning. Congratulations to Charles Leclerc. And from me, Lorato and Mustafa, have a wonderful day.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. Okay. Great show. Okay.